Let me know when we're good to go.
Yes, it's loading. Give me just a few seconds.
All right.
It's coming.
Are we supposed to record this too?
All right, now we're live.
Very good. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Youth and Education Committee in collaboration with the Neighborhood Advisory Board of the Department of Youth and Community Development. My name is Faye Florimon, and I'm the chair of the Youth and Education Committee. Thank you for joining our meeting tonight and being a part of this interesting conversation. Our deepest gratitude goes to the members of the panel for volunteering their time and knowledge to keep us informed. On our panel, as you may have already received our agenda in advance, we have Denise Williams, who is our Deputy Commissioner for DYCD. And we also have our Superintendent, Manuel Ramirez from District 6. We also going to have few parents providing their testimony. You will hear their names when their time comes to call in. And we also have our Blanca Batino, who is a retired principal of District 6. And you will hear also more from her, as well her expertise in different areas of education. And of course, we have also Yvonne Sennett, who is the Executive Director of Community League of the Heights, also known as CLOTH. And we also have, of course, Sharon G. Kim, who is the Program Manager of Uptown Hub. I wanted to welcome all. I would like to ask committee's members to identify themselves for the record, of course, and for folks to get to know who our colleagues are. I would like to start with member of our Youth and Education Committee, starting with Aldi. Please identify yourself.
So I'm here, Waldis Cruz, Assistant Chair.
Who else is there?
Gabriel Estrella, I'm also part of the committee.
Ariel Miranda. Who else?
Maria Luna.
Very good.
Hello, I'm Christina Richaz.
Yes. Jonathan, you also identify yourself as well.
I'm sorry. Hi all, I'm Jonathan. I'm part of Youth and Education Committee. I'm muted.
Very well. Do we have any other members?
I don't know if I came up. Did I came up? I don't know. I don't know about too much about these things.
What was that?
I came up?
Yes, Gabrielle.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. All right.
Good to see you.
Good.
All right. Any other member from the Youth Education Committee? Is Ariel in? All right. Well, in such case, let's proceed with members of the Neighborhood Advisory Committee who are honoring us in this, important initiative in collaboration. Please, member of the Advisory Committee members, please identify yourself. Also known as—
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Karina Ciprian. I'm the chair of the Neighborhood Advisory Board, Manhattan 12.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Hassal Montes. I am the vice chair of Neighborhood Advisory Board 12.
Very good.
I am Alfreda Goods. You can't see me. I'm the secretary, and I'll be taking notes tonight.
Hello, my name is Curtis Young, member of the Neighborhood Advisory Board. I'm the assistant secretary, also a member of Community Board 12 and former member of the Youth Education Committee. So I'm here in one capacity, though, NAB capacity tonight, not community.
Anybody else?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Eda Santiago. I'm here as member of the Neighborhood Advisory Board. I'll be taking some notes along with Alfreda, and I'm also a member of Community Board 12.
Wonderful. Anybody else in the house?
I want to introduce Naima Silver. She is also a member of the NAB. She unfortunately can't get her audio or visual to work, but noting that.
All right. Anybody else? All right, being that the case, so I guess let's proceed. So as you know, as you may know, part of our committee mission is to keep the community informed. And in concert with our mission, the purpose of this evening discussion is to get feedback from community leaders, educators, parents, students, about the challenges and experiences they have encountered during this difficult time of COVID-19. This, of course, will be used, and I wanted you to know, this will be used for possible policy advocacy. So moving forward, I would like to ask you kindly and respectfully that we take a moment of silence and memory of the unfortunate tragedy of Mr. George Floyd and his family after, you know, the tragedy that we all had witnessed and have mobilized our whole nation. So please, let's take a minute of silence on this for this cause.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Can I also name Breonna Taylor, please? Don't want to forget her. And thank you, and I'm not Aubrey.
Thank you. Yes, let's proceed now with our agenda. And thank you for, you know, join me in this important moment of silence for, you know, for Mr. Floyd. I would like now to proceed with the introduction of our moderators. Moving forward with our agenda, I would like to introduce our moderator, Waldis Cruz, who is the Assistant Chair for the Youth and Education Committee. And also, I would like to introduce his co-host, our co-moderator, Cari Ciprian, who is the chair of the president of the Neighborhood Advisory Board. These are the two committees that are working in conjunction. And without I conceal the floor to them, I would like to deeply thank you, everyone that has been making possible this important discussion. So Mr. Cruz and Mrs. Ciprian, so the floor is yours. And thank you for your attention and your collaboration.
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good evening.
How are you?
All right. So my name is Waldis Cruz. As Faye mentioned, I'm the Assistant Chair of the Youth and Education Committee. I also am a social worker by day. I currently work at New York Presbyterian Hospital as a social worker, but more specifically as a program manager for the comprehensive health program. Alongside that, I've been a long life resident of the community. I'm a product of District 6, and I've been here basically my whole 28 years of living. In lieu of what's happening, I know this conversation is about COVID and the impacts it's having in our public school system. I do want to also highlight, as the interesting year of 2020 unfolds, the current injustices that is happening right now. We wanted to provide a moment of silence so that we can stand in solidarity for our community, in which has been actively protesting. And we want to ensure that the lives of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, and so many more, their names do not go silent. So we just want to, you know, again, show our support as a committee and also as a community board to our community and also to our nation as a whole. and to say that Black lives do matter. And we will continue to be a support and an advocate for that. So thank you, Faith, for providing that moment of silence earlier. So just to give a couple of, I guess, rules or just a breakdown of like what will happen throughout this panel discussion. We will provide, after Kari introduces herself, we will ask for all the panelists to introduce themselves, try to keep it underneath 2 minutes, the introduction. And after we move forward from that, we will ask questions, about 4 questions each panelist, and ask everybody to keep it under 3 minutes just for time's sake. After all the panelists say their piece, we will ask for the parents and the student that is joining us to we'll have discussion with them and allow them to have a space for them to say what's on their mind and stuff. And after that, we'll open the floor for discussion and for questions and comments for our panelists, if that's okay. So I'll be segueing this to Kari, if you may, take it away.
Hi, everyone. As Waldi said, my name is Karina. Waldi, we had a meeting earlier, and I can't believe we didn't address that I'm also a social worker. So I'm also a social worker by trade. I actually intern at New York Presbyterian, and I intern at DYCD. So very familiar with the work in all of those places. I've been living in the Heights for over 6 years. My first internship ever here 7 years ago was in the Heights, and I now live a block away from the school, PS4. So I work predominantly with pre-K families as part of the Pre-K for All with NYU Langone at this moment. And I've worked all across different age groups, particularly with social emotional learning and work with children with autism and all of that. I've also worked with kids that have been involved in the prison the justice system and juvenile justice. So one last thing of housekeeping, if you all have any questions, we will be having a Q&A. So if anyone has any questions throughout the panel, please feel free to type them in the chat box. We're not, unfortunately, depending on timing, we don't know how many questions we'll get through, but we'll try our very best to get through as many questions as possible. So the questions can be for the panelists, it can be for the families, whatever comes up. If someone can't type in the chat box for any reason, we'll give an opportunity for someone to speak out loud. And with that, I will give it back to you, Waldi.
Very good. I wanted to, if I may, I would like to suggest that our colleague Giselle, who is the timekeeper, so he explained exactly the rules of the time to be kept.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, and happy to see you all here. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of unfamiliar faces that I'm happy to meet. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to share my screen, which already has a timer set so that way everybody's on the same page. I know that for the introductions of the panelists, we're trying to keep it about 2 minutes tops. So I'll just have the shared screen as panelists go. I'll start the clock and I'll stop it. And I will just announce out loud. I'll unmute myself and announce when there's a minute remaining and also when there's 30 seconds remaining. And I will also provide about a 5-second grace period to finish thoughts after the time is up. So as we go forward, that's what I'll be doing. And if you are muted, please don't take anything personal. It's not anything personal. Just for the purpose of the time.
All right. So thank you so much for breaking down the time. So just to reiterate, we're trying this thing where Jaziel will kind of, I don't say cut you guys off, but just give you guys a reminder of like, hey, 30 seconds, so on and so forth, just to like keep in mind time and since we're in this type of capacity, please, again, it's nothing personal. We're just trying to ensure that everybody has their time. With that being said, go ahead. No worries.
No, I was just trying to share the screen right now, and it says that the host disabled the screen sharing for the attendees. So if we can get that disabled, so that way I can share the screen efficiently.
Sure. Jonathan, is that something that you can do?
I'm sorry, what was that?
May you allow Mr. Jaziel Montez to
Share the
to
screen.
share screen. Can you give him permission to do so?
Jesse Montes.
Yes.
Yeah, someone does. Yeah.
All right, give me 1 second. All right, Jesse, go ahead and share your screen.
Beautiful. Got it. You may proceed with the first panelist.
Okay, cool. So hold on. This kind of changed my whole view.
Sorry.
bear with me. No worries. All right. So I'll ask for Miss Denise Williams to please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
First, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the invitation. Again, my name is Denise Williams. I'm a Deputy Commissioner with the Department of Youth and Community Development. Right now, my role is focused on systems and trying to create a cohesion among the DYCD programs. I used to run the after-school programs, and prior to that, I used to run the capacity building department. I'm a lifelong New Yorker, born in Brooklyn, live in Queens and Elmhurst specifically right now. So I oversee everything from the professional development of DYCD staff to the capacity building and training of providers to the launch of any new initiatives that we develop. My unit writes all the requests for proposals that nonprofits respond to. The NDA, the NAB members would know we partnered and did the surveys, development, and the analysis for the community needs assessment, the last 2 versions of it, and we'll be continuing to do so going forward. We developed the participant surveys that all the NDA surveying organizations receive and disseminate to participants. So pretty much anything to do with improving the way in which DYCD works is the focus of my team. And I'll stop and give my 32 seconds to the next panelist.
Minutes.
Sorry, this whole thing changed my screen too. Trying to find the unmute. Okay. All right. So next up, we have, is Manuel Ramirez here? Mr. Ramirez? Hi, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself, Mr. Ramirez.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. Trust me, I don't need 2 minutes.
No.
I hope most people know who I am. Well, I just want to say that thank you for having me tonight. Thank you, Fed, for the invitation. And I am extremely grateful for the work that you guys do for the community. I met Fed Florimon years ago when she was the president of the CEC for District 6, and we had the opportunity to engage with initiatives and programs for District 6 schools. I am the District 6 school superintendent, and just a little bit about myself. I was a math teacher in a middle high school for 10 years in District 1. Then I had the honor to open a middle high school in the Bronx, in District 9, which is still there. That's middle school, high school 327.
1 minute.
And now I am wrapping up my 6th year as superintendent for District 6. In a nutshell, my main role and responsibilities is to support and supervise every school in the district. And that goes from providing platform for organizations, instruction, social and emotional learning, and community engagement, academic development, and assessment development for the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. All right. So, hey, Miss Blanca Martino, go ahead.
Let me say one thing to Jason. I don't recommend to have the clock here on the screen. I rather want you to handle this clock on your side, and whenever anybody finishes talking, so you can say time, so the people can start talking, right?
Okay.
Because yeah, in this way we're covering the whole thing. So.
All right. Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen now. Thank you.
Yeah, stop sharing it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to say it worked while it lasted. It worked while it lasted.
Always worth
All
a
right.
try.
Yes, it was. All right. So may Miss Blanca Batino, and please forgive me if I mispronounce your name.
No, that's okay. It's Blanca Batino. My name is Blanca Batino. I've been an educator for 48 years, 40 of which are in District 6, not only as a director of bilingual programs, as assistant director, as AP, as a teacher, and also as a principal for 17 years and an RTI specialist, as well as now that I work for Ethical Schools Network, providing social emotional learning to trained staff that work in shelters. My love has always been the Heights. I always said that I live in New Jersey, but I don't know anyone. I just know everybody who lives in the Heights. I follow my students and I work actively with teachers within District 6. My knowledge has run from bilingual education to administration, as well as lending my needs for social emotional learning. And basically, I hold a great heart for the community and I provide whatever service I can, and I continue to be actively involved in programs in the community.
Thank you, Ms. Latino. Welcome. So next up, we have, and again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, Yvonne Stennett.
Did great. So good evening, everyone. It is an absolute pleasure to be in the same room with everyone tonight. Again, my name is Yvonne Stennett. I'm the Executive Director of Community League of the Heights. I have had the absolute pleasure of holding that position since 1994. However, I've been with the organization since July 16th, 1997. The majority of the work that we do is in affordable housing, but we also provide a plethora of other services, including the creation of Community Health Academy of the Heights in 2006, which is a middle through high school. We have, since our inception, provided after-school programs in PS 28, then in 4. So we are longtime providers of educational services. Thank you very much. 1 minute is up.
Thank you.
You still had another minute. I think it was just a
Was that the warning?
Yes, the warning.
That was the warning. Yes.
Yeah, you have another minute.
That's okay. I will yield.
Sounds great. Okay. Our last panelist, Ms. Sharon G. Kim.
Good evening, everybody. Hi, I'm so very honored to be part of this conversation with everyone, and thank you so much for the invitation. And my name is Sharon Kim, and I currently direct the Uptown Hub, which is a youth development program and drop-in center for 12 to 24-year-olds. We're housed at New York Presbyterian Hospital. And basically, we launched back in 2017 with the support from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. They had this vision to set up 5 youth opportunity hubs throughout Manhattan. And it would be a place where young people could come, they could connect to different resources, connect to different opportunities, especially around educational support, employment readiness, health and wellness, recreation, creative arts, all that any young person could desire. And a large part of our model, as our name Hub would suggest, is to provide these opportunities through a network of community organizations. So I have really had such the privilege of working with 5 incredible CBOs in the Heights: Dominican Women's Development Center, Northern Manhattan Improvement Corporation, People's Theater Project, Police Athletic League, and the Y up in Inwood. I think some might be tuned in, so huge shout out to them. And I'm really honored to be here to represent, and thank you so much.
Thank you, welcome. So before we begin, I just want to note, following the panelist discussion, we're also going to be hearing from a couple of our parents and one of our students. So I just want to note them. I want to also, sorry, I have to go between screens. All right, so I want to note Yubelka Nolasco is one of our parents, as is Josefina Diaz. And we also will be hearing from our student, Yirelis Benscome. I'm so sorry if I got that wrong. So we'll be hearing from them at the end, okay? All right, go ahead, Waldy.
Yes, so welcome all. And thank you guys for participating and for joining us in this very important discussion. Ms. Denise Williams, you go up first. So we wanted to know and ask, what are some specific DY programs that will continue to address the needs of the community during this pandemic? And what programs will not be available?
So let me start before we get into the programs to say that one important function that DYCD plays is to get money to our nonprofit organizations. And with the pause, we haven't missed a beat. We have kept the money flowing, budget mods, contracts, all the stuff that isn't sexy, but is kind of the lifeblood to nonprofit organizations. Specific to programs, we've transitioned our Cornerstone programs, as some of you may know, into food distribution hubs. We've kind of partnered with the new Food Czar to make sure that our 700 food pantries, soup kitchens are part of that system of delivery. A lot of people don't know that we fund all those programs, but we've also been sharing that information with a lot of our families' food bank. For example, our programs are mostly continuing to operate. There are very few that have shut down altogether. They have transitioned to online services. So most of our school programs are continuing to operate. Some of them are doing amazing things in partnerships with the schools. They've joined Google Classroom. So the young people have a more seamless experience than having to go from a DOE platform to a DYCD service provider platform. We're offering citywide activities that young people can join. So some of you know about our film festival that's still happening virtually. Our cooking competition still happening virtually. Step It Up is offering classes with renowned choreographers once a week that we are marketing to participants. And it's great because you don't have to travel to be part of it. So most of our programs are operating virtually. The two essential programs that continue to operate as is were our runaway and homeless youth shelters, TILs, drop-in centers, as well as the food programs that I mentioned. Everything else, so those two were determined to be essential by the mayor, and all of our other programs went to distance learning or opportunities as services, including healthy families, fatherhood, offering case management and workshops and things like that, but at a distance.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So this question is from Mr. Ramirez. What are some of the challenges that principals experience with remote learning in their schools?
Well, you know that many students and families had emotional health and learning challenges even before the coronavirus. And now this COVID-19 has really highlighted or exacerbated. Many families were stable before COVID-19, now facing financial food insecurities. Family now need additional support with grief, anxiety, and isolation. So all this requires reorganizing teams and creating and putting emphasis on providing support and resources for now social emotional well-being, including mental health services. So that's why you see schools now distributing resources, including food to family, training to staff, how to support families. And another big challenge has been also the expectation regarding teachers providing instruction. The community has expressed many times that they see that there is a big difference when teachers provide live instruction over non-live instruction. And this remote learning is something that had never been done on this scale ever. So we needed to create a climate of trust and support for innovation and patience with some of our missteps. But that has been one challenge, finding that balance between live instruction and non-live instruction. The devices and the connectivity. Right now, District 6 have 412 devices listed as outstanding. 16 of them have been already shipped, but we have 355 devices now in process. You will never be 100% because families always find issues, whether with the Wi-Fi, whether it's that device is broken, lost, stolen. So those are just to mention probably the main challenges that we have right now.
Got it. So I just want to ask a follow-up question to that. You mentioned the remote learning. How effective do you think the remote learning has been for all students at this point?
If you compare remote learning with the learning that happened before this pandemic, we will never gonna be there. Students, especially the little ones, especially students with disabilities, especially students with language development, they need the contact, the engagement with their teacher. They need the teachers to actually help them step by step. They need to learn organizational skills. They need to learn how to learn. And that's one of the challenges that we have right now. I think based on what I know that has been happening in other states, because I know people who teach in Washington, D.C., and Massachusetts, for example, I think what has happened in New York City has been remarkable. The switch to remote learning that happened in a matter of a week, and to the scale of this initiative, actually created a huge challenge for us. And given those challenges, I believe that we have minimized the loss that's going to occur, but we have minimized it with the type of work that has been happening.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So, Ms. Blanca Batino. We know that you have been in communication with teachers, principals, and parents in our district to learn firsthand what they have been experiencing. What are some of the issues that you're concerned with and they're concerned with?
I think Mr. Ramirez had mentioned some of the critical issues, but in talking to teachers and looking at how it was affecting children, one of the things that the teachers expressed over and over again was the need of improvement of their own technical skills, especially when you consider that many of the staff are over 40 years old and are not as tech savvy as some of our younger teachers. So in order to be able to have all the tools and all the programs at their tips and be able to use them to individualize for specific needs of different children, it's more difficult. So one of the things that the teachers asked over and over again in the different schools was that they would like ongoing professional development in this area. They wanted to be embedded into what the state and the district plan will be and the city plan will be for staff. They also asked for other support, because what happens in District 6, as you know, 84% of our community is second language learners. And there's also 29% of them are new immigrants or people who have been in our communities for a short period of time. And the language issue became critical in terms of the activities and the lessons that the teachers were providing. Although there are Spanish programs and many of the teachers were taking advantage of this as part of their bilingual programs, I said it was sometimes very difficult, that Mr. Ramirez had said, for our parents to be knowledgeable enough in the area of technological area in order to support their children. So the achievement gap was actually increased between what children were doing prior as to what children are doing now. And this became paramount in what teachers were saying continuously. For the students, they felt very frustrated with the work at times. And as Mr. Ramirez had pointed out, there have been many issues in the community in terms of economics. The pandemic brought up a lot of survival needs. There were also needs of resources. One of the things that was out there was that we need more resources for our children. 4,500 computers, iPads were given. Dismantling of classroom technology labs was done in order to provide for children. So it shows in the face of everything that was going on, the disparity that is happening between our communities who are marginalized communities. Our children need to have that support and it needs to be ongoing. So our parents were asking, will they have computers again next year? Will they have free internet? Because part of the economic issues that some of the parents were having, they cannot afford to have the internet. Optimum and Spectrum were actually raising the prices for many of our parents. There is a need among our community that we have to have those resources. Materials and other supplies, sometimes when teachers gave tasks to do, they were very sensitive to the needs of the community. So they would say to the children, you know, you have these things at home. But parents then were saying, yes, I do have paper towels to do the science experiment, but they're not that easily replaced anymore. And I'm afraid to go out and purchase anything because if I go out, I might get COVID-19. So what was happening was that they were in need of materials and supplies. There's a part of our community that is dead.
I just want to note that time is up, but I'll let you finish that last thought.
What I wanted to say is that materials and supplies and resources have to be provided for our children for equity and success for them.
Thank you so much, Ms. Latino. So Ms. Bennett, my next question is for you. So just really quickly, we know you've been actively involved in COVID-19 response efforts. So if you can give us a little bit of information as far as like how you have personally been involved, what that looks like, what those duties look like, and what are some of the initiatives that you and your organization have taken to support the community?
So on day one, we took a serious look at what services we were already providing and what services we could enhance to meet the needs of the community. And one of the things that we have done for decades now is to provide a food pantry. We were providing that food pantry 2 days a week. We were seeing some 250 people. March 13th, we immediately revved up the services and started opening the pantry 4 days a week. Since then, we have seen upwards of 500 people 4 days a week. So we have, from that time till now, served over 6,000 food packages, 60,000 food packages. The other thing we did immediately, we purchased a van so that we could go around and service the seniors that were homebound and or disabled. And we've been doing that every Tuesday and Thursday since March 13th. In terms of the school and let me add one other thing. We've been working with merchants as well, because as you know, our merchants have been devastated. So we worked with a number of them, trying to make sure that they could complete the packages so that they could get whatever loans and grants were out there to maintain their businesses. We're still working with them to see whether or not they will be able to start. And I'm dismayed to say that 50% of the merchants we've worked with have pretty much said they don't see a way back, which is quite devastating. The other part is that we've been working in our school, Community Health Academy of the Heights, as well as with the parents of PS4. Our after school staff has now become counselors and translators. Many of the parents, as you know, English is their second language, not their home language. They do not understand the work so that they can be the quasi teachers that they need to be now. So we have had to become translators for them, and we spent a lot more time working with the parents in some instances than we actually do working with the students. Distance learning has become a real challenge. We're seeing that students now are becoming disengaged. It was once very exciting for them initially, but now it's wearing off. So we've had to think about ways to continue the engagement in a social way. Coming up with activities that make them feel that they should still participate in ways to learn and ways to stay engaged. I think it's an ongoing battle. I don't see food insecurity going away, nor do I see distance learning doing all that it should do and can do to continue educating our children.
Thank you so much. Ms. Sharon Kim, how has your organization supported the community during this pandemic?
Sure, thanks for the question. So just to caveat a little bit of a disclaimer, while the Uptown Hub, we are housed within New York Presbyterian, and the hospital has certainly done much for the community. I'm definitely going to focus in specifically on the hub and how we've been providing services to our youth and through our hub partners. And so, like my fellow colleagues here tonight, due to this pandemic, we have had to quickly adjust and make a lot of decisions about how to continue providing our services to our young people in a virtual way. And really in collaboration with our hub partners, we have been able to offer different virtual programming and services. And basically what I've been describing as 3 main pillars. So the first main pillar is our supportive guidance program. Basically, every young person who officially enrolls in the hub as a member, they are immediately assigned to what we call a hub advocate. And so that is their one-on-one mentor, their champion, that person that's going to connect to resources, provide emotional support. And so as soon as we had to close our physical space, our main priority was making sure that every one of our members was reached out to and to determine if they had any immediate needs. And so since then, we have been able to stay connected with almost 200 young people. And we've even had some new members join our program via our virtual enrollment process. Another pillar is our virtual programs via Zoom. So we're all about Zoom, and all of our programs are actually co-sponsored by our hub CBO partners. And some actually are co-facilitated by them. So we have self-care, movie nights, we have game nights, we have anime club, we're providing tutoring, all via Zoom. And at this point, we're offering something basically Monday through Friday, every day. And in May alone, we've had 125 unique visits. By the way, these programs are open to the community. You don't have to be a hub member to join. And so we've had youth who are just friends of our hub members or youth who are part of our hub partner organizations drop in. And then third, we have our behavioral health arm. So we have 3 hub psychologists on the team who exclusively see our hub members who express an interest in getting therapy, either individual or group. And as I'm sure you can all imagine, since COVID-19, a lot of our members have been struggling, how to cope, how to manage. And so fortunately, through Telepsych, we've been able to screen and enroll new patients, which, as you can imagine, has been an incredibly important service for our young people. So beyond those 3 main services, we as a hub network have been thinking a lot about the summer and the summer that's coming up, and how do we continue to support our young people. And so we have some plans in the works, and I'm happy to say it's really been spearheaded alongside the Y up in Inwood, who is an SYP provider. And so learning from them, we were thinking about having some kind of summer youth employment program. So that's in the works, but more to come on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right. So next, Ms. Williams, the next question is for you. Oh, okay, good, sorry. So the next question is, are there any new initiatives that the department is undertaking to address the specific needs of our youth as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic?
So as a result of the pandemic, but also what's been happening over the last couple of months, I can't say just the last couple of months as a Black woman in this country, but the trauma we've all experienced with the murders we've all had to witness over and over again. We are launching youth town halls, which will be starting in August led by young people. It's both an opportunity for them to express how they're feeling about what's happening, but also we hope develop a youth agenda that they want to present not just to this mayor, but to the candidates who will be running for mayor. So we are working on designing that. We are partnering with an organization called Amplify, which is part of CUNY, to do youth participatory action research. So it would be some of our young people partnering with grad students in CUNY to conduct research on how COVID has affected their communities, particularly young people in their communities, and have them develop a set of policy recommendations that will be presented to the Children's Cabinet, which you know is part of, it's made up of commissioners of all agencies who in some way touch the lives of young people. Through our Runaway and Homeless Youth Initiative, we have issued a request for proposal and funded an organization to provide isolation beds, as you can imagine. So in our shelter system, they are practicing social distancing, so that's one. But if a young person has symptoms, we don't want them having to stay in a group setting. And so we have isolation hotel rooms where they get supported by the nonprofit organization with medical support and food and care, but they can be away from the shelter-like setting so that they can recover from if they have COVID or COVID-like symptoms. So those are the three. The last thing I'll say is that assuming we are the recipients of some of the NYPD reallocation, or frankly, the bigger issue, if the federal government decides to have another package, legislative package that we hope funds the state and municipalities, we will have more summer programming. And we have been working on for the past 6 months, computer-based, web-based program called Hats and Ladders for SYP. So you do all of the curriculum, work readiness, developing resumes, all of those kinds of things through this new platform that we would launch this summer. And the reason I'm excited about it, although it was developed for SYP, all of our young people 14 and over, whether you're in Beacon or Sonic programs or Cornerstone, could also participate.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to hear that work is happening. Just a really quick follow-up question. Do you know when any of those programs would be starting to take place? Because I know I'm seeing in the Q&A comments that SYP is something that's been mentioned a lot. So I know that that's going to come up in Q&A. But any just idea of like,
so let me talk about the two that are sure to happen. Then we can talk about SYP. So the youth town halls were in the planning phase, and we're expecting to launch the first one at the end of July. Amplify is going to start in July and run through September. I'm very excited about that because not only will they do research, it's kind of a different version of SYP. So young people will be paid to participate and learn how to conduct research. I don't know if you know a lot about the evaluation field, but it could use some people of color in the field. So we're excited for them to be partnering with CUNY grad students. So those things will be happening this summer. I will say that as I was kind of as surprised as I'm sure all of you were, hopeful, the mayor said about redirecting funding to youth programs. That's all we heard. We have not heard anything definitive. I know the council was very interested in restoring some aspects of SYP. You know that in the past couple of years, we've served 75,000 young people. I don't know that we'll get that size and scale again, but July is almost here. And so we do need a decision fairly soon if to be able to mobilize providers. The thing that I will say is that we were really focused on safety, and a lot of the job sites that we would usually go to, whether it was corporate or others, were either teleworking, so you're not sending a young person to a site like that. So the original reason was not just about funding and the gap, it was really about safety and we had folks withdrawing their applications to be sites because they were moving to either just canceling altogether or their staffs were going to be working online. So it's not just a matter of getting the money, but figuring out how to do that safely and not expose young people to unsafe situations. So of course we want to do the right thing and we're excited about the opportunity. But in fairness to the providers, we have to make a decision to give them a time to offer a quality experience this summer.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just wanted to make sure, because I know that SYP has been on a lot of our minds, so just wanted to address
on
that.
ours too. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Mr. Manuel Ramirez, we wanted to ask, what actions have you taken to rectify these COVID-related issues, and what needs to be put in place for the future to facilitate the remote learning implementation?
As I said before, right, as soon as we face this pandemic, we started to think about not only the academic need of the students, but also everything that was going to come to affect our community, including families who were experiencing loss of a loved one, financial burden that this was going to bring about to them. And I wanted to say this, Mr. Cruz, because you said what action I'm taking. And I think it's not fair to say that this is action that District 6 is taking. I think the most accurate statement would be what the Department of Education is doing under the leadership of Chancellor Carranza. That's because in this moment, in this crisis that we are facing as a society, right, we all came together and start to follow the directions of our leader. As I said before, as you know, we have about 20 school buildings in our district who are serving school hub, serving thousands of meals per day to alleviate the financial situation of our families. We have been very vigilant in providing devices and connectivity to all our families to compensate for the lack of connectivity for the that we were facing at the moment. Before school were closed, we distributed almost 5,000 laptops to families, plus almost 5,000 more iPads after school were closed. We are in constant communication with school leadership teams and school principals to ensure that not only the academic part of education is addressed, but also social emotional need of our students and families. Our schools are all promoting at least 2 workshops for parents to talk about how to handle crisis, the type of conversation they need to engage students so they can understand what's going on around them, so they can face it, and teaching parents also certain skills so they can learn how to teach the children as well. So again, this is not something that District 6 only is doing. This is something that the city of New York has embarked on. And I am very lucky to work with a group of teachers who actually have been a pleasure to work with during this time because of their positive attitude, but also a community that has been very supportive and understanding of the situation that we are in.
Very much so. I wanted to ask another follow-up question, if you could answer like within a minute or so, regarding summer school, being that it's kind of more the immediate future. Is summer school still taking place? And if so, who will attend?
So the answer is yes. Summer school will be using remote learning. We don't even know if next school year we're gonna go back to school. So it's very possible that in September, our kids will continue to be under this type of structure. We are expecting approximately 178,000 students to attend summer school district-wide. Now, last year in District 6, we had 2,519 students in summer school last year. This year, actually today, we began collecting the data for the students who are being, that will be requested to attend summer school. So we expect that number to be twice as much. So definitely this is gonna be the structure in place for teaching and learning. The only difference now is that we have required teachers to provide between 75 minutes to 2 hours of live teaching every day. That it didn't happen, that's not happening right now because of the agreement with the union. So students will be having a live interaction with teacher on an everyday basis.
Got it. Thank you so much. Just to ask one, I mean, it's just for fact. You said that, I just want to know the numbers. You said about 2,100 students last year were in summer school in the district wide. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
2,518.
518. And then this year, as of today.
No, this year we started today to collect the data regarding the students who will be required to go summer school. We don't have the number yet, kind of early for that. We should have that number in a week, but we expect that number to be approximately twice as much.
Got it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So, Ms. Patino, I know earlier we left off, you were sharing with us some of the challenges that teachers have been experiencing during this time. Wanted to ask you, what are the steps that will be you'll be taking to address some of these concerns? And if you want to address the concerns.
Well, there are a lot of steps that we need to take, and the whole school system really has an opportunity, I believe, at this point in time to make drastic changes in the way they are teaching. Although there is a point of being that people are saying that schools will not open, everything that I've read and everything that I've talked to and everyone that I've spoken to at different levels have said that yes, school will reopen. It will reopen in a different format, but it will be reopened, whether it would be blended learning, which is a combination of computers, using computers as well as teaching in the classroom, or what they call hybrid learning, which is similar. I said school will happen. There are many issues involved with that as well, and many questions that parents have of the safety of the children. This is a time in which, when we look at the problems that our community is having, as was mentioned by Yvonne and Denise and everyone who has spoken, and Mr. Ramirez, I said it's a time to begin to look at activities when we begin to work with children that actually decrease stress. Because as you know, executive function of the brain does not work. Kids cannot learn if they have stress or trauma in their lives. And we know that our community, as Mr. Ramirez had mentioned, had prior to the pandemic stresses. So now we're increasing those stresses. So there has to be a comprehensive plan and practices put in place in every school in the city that requires social emotional strategies to use on a daily basis and to integrate that into the child's learning in order for you to have success and for kids to actually learn. There is more to learning, as neuroscience research has indicated, than just giving them a lot of work. As people have mentioned, parents, our kids are disengaged. As Yvonne had mentioned, they're disinterested, unmotivated. And now on top of it all, they have this issue with what is happening in terms of justice, especially for our high school students, who parents continually say, I don't know what to do with them. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to log in. They don't want to submit work. They are depressed. You're talking about a depressed community, a community that's suffering in every which way. And I had seen this community suffer prior, but after this pandemic, the things I've heard and seen are really mind-boggling. And our communities, they live in double up residencies, 4 or 5 families to 1 apartment. I said, in order to survive. And all of these things say that as a priority, we have to have social emotional learning placed in a way that is holistic, unified, and practice-driven. We have to help our children and our community. One of the other things that was mentioned before, and I really do believe we have an opportunity to deal with the questions of justice and race. Discrimination through videos, activities available in the internet, promoting discussions, providing factual information, and in order to build a student's self-awareness, build relationships. Because if we do not do that, and we know that neuroscience says that research has indicated that this will lead to motivation, productivity, and achievement. And I'm so happy that you have the summer program that is working on this, because we need to have it not only in summer programs, we need to have it every day as part of the educational system in our schools to make change, to help our children feel the hope of being able to make those changes. Sorry that I'm very adamant about certain things.
Listen, I'm a social worker. I focus on social emotional learning. Right there with you.
I'm right there with you,
so
sis. Don't worry.
For your passion.
Yes.
All right, Miss Yvonne. What are some of the challenges that you have experienced with youth engagement? I know you mentioned before that students are disengaged, and how have they been addressed by your organization? Yeah, I have to unmute yourself, Yvonne.
Did you hear my solution? I just gave the solution to world peace. Did you hear it?
Oh no!
We missed
Gonna
it.
have to
We missed
repeat
it. You have to
that.
say it again. Yeah.
I think I want to address it through the work that we've been doing in our school. I cannot magnify how much the social and emotional piece is affecting our young people. It's not just affecting our young people, it's affecting their entire family, right? We've had to create certain programs for about 50 students. We're actually servicing 30 of them who were directly impacted by COVID, along with the deaths that they experienced. Some of it was parents, some of it were siblings, they were extended families, along with the fact that they were hit with unemployment, because as most of our population is in the service field, completely out of work. And so a multitude of students coming to us with a lot of problems. Not only did we have to create kind of a wellness advocacy group that actually checked in with these families daily, checked in with the students, but also had to check in with the parents to find out where they were on that mental stress ladder. And try to figure out how to engage them, not just about how their children were doing, but how they were doing. Their homes are not prepared to do distance learning. Everyone, you know, it's not like they had a desk set up for this. This is a totally different environment for all of them to deal with, and it is extremely stressful. We've had to create a feeding program just to have meals prepared for these families to come up, because the idea of coming home for those who could work and then having to do homework and deal with the stress of what was going on was so much that they didn't have the ability to prepare meals. Thank God we were able to partner with a catering company, so now we prepare meals for them every day. But one of the other things we had to do was to make sure our guidance counselor, our social worker, and a support team was checking in with these families on a daily basis to ask them questions about how, not just the academics, of course we're checking on that, but how are things happening in your home? What are the kind of conversations that you are having? When when this issue, this horrible issue with George Floyd came about, our students got another pandemic on top of another pandemic. So they're dealing with multiple pandemics within their hearts, their minds, and their homes. We had to create a platform. We had about 90 of parents, teachers, and support people come together to talk about what was that racial impact, that internalized racism that now they're taking on in order to deal with that. So the multiple pressures that are happening to our young people right now, to think that they can comprehend academics on the level that we want them to is just, it's not possible right now without putting in a lot of antidotes, without putting in a lot of mechanisms that's going to help the entire family. I heard that.
Sorry, I feel like the big bad wolf over here.
That's okay. I love it.
Someone's got to be it. No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much, Ms. Bennett. Ms. Sharon Kim, my question for you is, what are some of the concerns of our families during this pandemic that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my fellow panelists have really covered a lot of the concerns. I mean, we are definitely seeing similar things at the Hub. You know, most of our work really is centered directly working with our young people. And so they have been expressing directly to us a lot of what those concerns are. And, you know, it's been mentioned, the remote learning that has for sure been an issue, access to appropriate technology, all the things that have already been mentioned. You know, something that has been interesting is the sleep schedules. I mean, sleep is just really not regulated. I think as adults, I feel like we're having a hard time sleeping during this sort of pandemic time. I think, you know, another thing that we're realizing and has sort of been mentioned is just that the living space not being so conducive, not only because it might be cramped and there might be, you know, so many family members, but we're also finding that for some of our young people, they're in some you know, possibly dangerous or unresolved situations at home, you know, with the people that they're living with, and having them now stuck at home, it's really been a great challenge for them. You know, something that has been interesting to realize during this time is, you know, our young people, they choose to be part of our program. You know, it's of their own initiative that they come to our drop-in center, and it quite honestly is linked to the fact that they have nowhere else to go. You know, they don't really have that safe place. Home is not necessarily that safe place. So, you know, during this particular time, you know, we have been just realizing more and more how important our space is, you know, physical space. And it has been something that I think for myself and for my staff, it's been a difficult thing to swallow, but you know, we continue to do the best that we can. And sort of as Yvonne was saying, you know, it's a lot of texting and a lot of calling on the daily, just trying to check in. And you know, hopefully we're able to provide some amount of hope and let them know that someone cares about them so that they can get through one more day. And that honestly has been a huge thing. I think having our virtual programs, you know, every week we get like 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 more young people that are tuning in. And so I think that has been tremendous. I think just the fact, again, that we have been able to work with all of our Hub partners. So we have multiple people from each one of our organizations checking in on the same young person. I think that actually has been really, really tremendous. And there are weekly and sometimes multiple times in a week conversations that our staff across our organizations are having with each other to make sure that no one is falling through the cracks. And so I think that has been just so huge. And, you know, but with all of that said, I do want to just mention that we're also very blown away by our young people's resilience. They are resilient. They are really, I think, you know, handling this whole situation much better than I think, you know, we could have expected. And that has been so encouraging, and I think inspires all of us to just continue in this work. So yeah.
And now they're leading a whole revolution. So
Totally.
Right.
I mean, it is completely, yeah, that is very true.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Denise, back to you. What are some of your, what do you believe are some of your future concerns for life post-COVID, and some recommendations for possible solutions?
I'm not sure I have solutions, but some of my worries are about the disappearance of some of the entry-level jobs that our young people used to get, or families, individuals with not a lot of language proficiency or degrees. Like, I'm worried about a whole range of jobs disappearing. I'm worried about the tax base, believe it or not. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but they're talking about how a lot of people could relocate from New York City.
That's right.
The Hamptons and other states, they're relocating. And as you know, DYCD is mostly tax levy. I refer to us as a nice to have, not a must have. You have to fund the Department of Education. You have to fund some other things, or even, you know, homeless services by the court decree. But whenever there's a cut, youth services is the first to go. So if we lose the tax base, that's going to be a problem. I worry about us not getting the money we deserve as a state from the federal government, because New York City alone is looking at a $7 billion cut. And at that point, it won't matter. This is not going to be about the NYPD and DYCD, right? This is going to be about hundreds of people being laid off that will further decimate communities, from first responders to teachers to, you know, other folks in city agencies. And a lot of government jobs have provided a ladder to, you know, the middle class. For some folks, I worry about that not being there as well. I, you know, everywhere I'm going, I'm talking about protesting policy. It's not just about being in the street. You have to understand voting. You have to understand policy. You have to understand holding folks we elect accountable for what they said during the campaign that they're not doing. They're in office. We have to encourage young people to understand what the federal government is doing or not doing really affects us. It's not just the mayor and the council. Heck, I'm giving money to the guy running against Mr. McConnell. Why? Because we need a Senate that is Democratic led, which might help us get some money in the city of New York. So I worry about these things. I'm loving the young people protesting. What I've been telling all the adults is they're laying their bodies on the line. They're putting all their energy out there. What are we doing? Right? What are we doing in terms of strategy, in terms of organizing, in terms of donating? Because they are out there taking risks, not just from COVID, but being arrested, being abused. So what are adults doing in the other strategic arenas? But the big worry for me is if we don't get this bailout, it's not going to be about summer youth employment, right? It's going to be summer youth employment, after school, and everything else you can think of. So those are my worries.
Thank you so much for being so detailed.
Yeah, thank you for really highlighting the interconnectivity of all these systems, right? Of how it's not one singular thing. Mr. Ramirez, as Ms. Williams mentioned, right, we know that there will be budget cuts coming our way. So what I want to ask is, how will the proposed budget cuts affect our schools?
Where should I begin? Because
wherever you like.
It's hard.
Let's get started by saying that we all are reading in the newspaper about the city financial crisis right now, which is between $7 to $9 billion. So if that holds, then we're looking at the Department of Education budget crisis of $2 billion deficit.
Mhm.
The mayor already has announced the possibility of reducing first student funding to schools. As you probably know, first student funding has been increasing. First student funding has been one of the major goals since years ago. Every year we got a 2-3% increase in first student funding, and we were able to create programs, Saturday programs, art programs, taking the kids to trips. We've been able to increase our technology presence in the classroom. We have been able to hire guidance counselors and social workers to address social emotional needs. If we recede now in our budget cut, then we have to look at lots and lots of the gains that we have made in the last couple of years to actually operate in a matter of a year. I would say our main concern would be our staff. If this crisis holds, if there is no federal stimulus or state bailout, we're looking at losing a lot of teachers, which will add to the already delicate emotional stage of our children, seeing their beloved teachers to go. That we're gonna have to think about cutting our Saturday programs, summer programs, after school programs. We have to look at now a reduction of the counseling services that we're producing right now. We have to let go of school aides and school staff that give us the peace of mind to have the children to go to the cafeteria in an orderly fashion, will greet students, that will dismiss students at the end, that help to create a safe environment for our students. We're gonna have to actually drastically cut professional development for teachers, and Ms. Platino was mentioning that one of the issues that we're facing right now with this new structure for teaching and learning is actually teachers saying that they need to increase their technology savviness, and now with less money to find organizations or consultants that can help us do that, then we are pretty much left with no code in the cold weather.
Thank you so much. So I'm hearing teacher cuts. I'm hearing cuts to after school programming and special Saturday programs, cut to aids, and yeah, thank you.
You're hitting cut across the board.
Across the board.
Again,
yeah.
Assuming that we don't get extra funding, assuming that things stay the way they are right now, you have to think about cuts to teaching, counseling, trips, technology, after schools, Saturdays, everything that you could think of that actually enhance the school life or that the school experience for all children will have to be cut, and increase in class size.
Really big deal.
Yeah, sounds devastating.
Huge deal. As I listen to people talking about what is needed now, I'm thinking precisely what we need now, we have to get it with money that we're gonna have less of.
Right.
So it's gonna become a closed, vicious cycle of lack of money versus needs in the community.
For sure. I mean, and this segues my question to Ms. Blanca. So outside of funding, what are other recommendations do you have to address the specific needs of students? I know you're an expert in social emotional learning, so we would love to hear your perception.
I also love teaching. I mean, that's my prime love of life, but social emotional learning just goes with it. I think one of the things that has to happen is a creative look at how we can get monies. I know that there will be cuts. I mean, I had cuts when I was in my school, but there are ways in which there are opportunities through grants. There are opportunities through foundations. There are opportunities by co-partnering. I had 22 partners in my building to provide for the needs of the children in the school. My kids had Alvin Ailey, my kids had art, my kids had an architectural program. But I have to, the way the leadership has to look at and principals in school is to begin to say, I'm not going to stand for this. Yes, if the cuts are happening, then we still have to work on policies and practices to make changes. But there are monies in testing, monies that are being billions of dollars giving to testing that is sometimes and considered through research really not effective. There are monies that is in school construction capital that is given more to certain communities than is given to other communities. There are monies. I'm not saying that we do not need the resources, and I'm not saying in the long run, but I never can say never. I just can't do that. I feel that there's something has to be done. If I agree with, there has to be changes in how our schools are run. There has to be a community looking at community as a partner. There has to be a way of increasing parent engagement because parents are powerful. And now we are saying that we're communicating more with parents and parents are communicating with us. The whole teacher role has changed. So our formation of what school is like has to change as well. And where we get our resources has to change. And the teaching that takes place in the classroom must deal with the issues of justice, equality, even at first grade level in a minimal sense. But we have to also empower our children to become active in our communities, to go out and help with the census. Well, with the pandemic, it becomes an issue, but with the older children, that might be a possibility. I said to go out and do something to make yourself feel that you are actively changing what is being held to you. I'm old, so I'm from the era where we fought for certain rights and civil rights, as well as Vietnam War, as well as other things. And I believe that these, the problem of policing has been there forever. And our children feel trapped that they can't express what it is that is happening and will continue to happen in our communities for brown and Black people. You know, I'm Puerto Rican, my sister is Black, my brother looks like an Indian. We are mixed, that is who we are. We have to accept this, and we have to also try to seek ways of fighting the system. And although it is maybe sounds a little out of sorts, I really believe that we have ways of helping our children feel better about themselves, achieve, help those special ed kids feel better about themselves. And parents are complaining that if schools do reopen, they feel unsafe. They don't know how our children are going to be safe in school. So some of them said to me, I'm not sending my child to school. I don't know if the school is being cleaned. So we have to look at how is the school going to be clean? All these questions, how are custodians who have contracts that state that they only can service X, Y, and Z are now going to change to be able to deal with cleaning a school that the community, that there's COVID-19. What are the disinfectants that are going to be used that may cause allergies to some of our children? These are questions that we have to provide for our community. There has to be ongoing, and I have to thank FAIR for having the foresight of thinking of how important it is for our communities to get together and to talk and to unite as a group in helping the education and our youth. I said, because if we can't do it, who's going to do it for them? I mean, our parents are in need. I couldn't speak English till I was almost in the 8th grade. I said, but that doesn't mean we can't do it. And I agree with something that the young lady had said. Our community is resilient. I believe that this is going to make us stronger, that we're going to find energies within ourselves that are going to make us even be better, that we're going to change and we're going to make change. And I pray that everyone who is part of our community feels the same way and does the same thing. One of the benefits that I've seen is how teachers and parents are now, for the first time, actually sensitizing themselves to each other, bonding in ways which they didn't know they could. Teachers really began to see how our parents are feeling and what are the issues in our community. It's different when you say it at a workshop, but when you actually hear a parent say to you, I can't help him, but this is what's happening in my house. This is a totally different way that the teacher's role has changed. So teachers' roles has changed, leadership has changed. Our schools have to change. And we have to be able to provide and look for resources beyond what is given to us. We have to go out and get it. We have to get those resources for our children. And I wrote grants. I am willing to support anyone who's writing grants. I've had partnerships. It's very easy to create partnerships that can work with schools to provide the mental health that we cannot provide because we don't have enough social workers or help or assistance or psychologists or guidance. We have to relook at how we can do it. And we have to design it. We can't wait. And I know that we get.
I just want to note your time's been up for a bit. Sorry about that. I know it's hard to keep track.
I'm kind of passionate, but
I appreciate that. And just so you know, we are going to have a last opportunity for last thoughts. So please hold on to that thought because it is important. I just want to make sure that we're holding space for everyone. Thank you so much. No, listen, I appreciate the passion. I just want to make sure we're on timely because I know everyone has, well, not places to go because I'm sure you all are quarantined, but you know, things to do. Ms. Sennett, I wanted to ask you, so in the beginning of this panel, you talked about some of the initiatives that you and your organization have taken to provide the community, predominantly around helping with food insecurity. Do you see these initiatives continuing the next year? And if so, what are the resources that you will need?
I don't see an end to food insecurity for some time. I think if anything, it's going to get bigger. I think when we look at unemployment, it's not going to go away anytime soon. The little stimulus check that people received is gone. Folks are using their rent money right now to be able to purchase food. As long as their children are home, they will need to feed them. So I don't see insecurity, food insecurity going away anytime soon. I think I can see our food pantry is going to be up and running for a long time. What are we going to need? We're going to need more food, better coordinated. Some of these food programs rolled out like it was crazy with no structure, with no ability and accountability. I think a lot more accountability and a lot more streamlining of how food comes to communities needs to happen. I know that food is available. The issue was transportation and coordination. So I think that's got to get better, but that's not going to go away. You know, as I listen to everyone, I'm concerned about economic development around our businesses that are going under or don't see a way of coming back. I'm worried about education, not just for young people, but adult education. I'm worried about the English as a second language programs that were going on. I'm worried about the workforce development programs that took money to make it happen, and those monies are gone. I'm worried about the existence of community-based organizations who are the pillars of our community and what's going to happen to them when all the funding goes away. And I think for a long time, community-based organizations were just, oh, they exist. During times like this, we find out how much they weave the communities together and the need that they actually have. So I'm stressed about that. I am overly worried about the gap that is being created, the academic gap that's being created with our young people. They were at a disadvantage before. Our children of color have always been at a disadvantage, and they will be at an even greater disadvantage. So that there's a lot to do. Yes, there's partnerships. Yes, there's grant, but let me tell you, it is competitive as hell to get those grants right now. So I think we're going to have to rethink about a lot of partnerships, a lot of scaling back of some of the things we do and get more strategic and focus on the basic needs of human beings as opposed to trying to do certain things. But there's a lot to have to think through and a lot to kind of look at. And I think we need to figure out how to get a better administration, because I'm gonna tell you point blank, under the leadership we got now, we are screwed, sorry. I'm done.
Thank you, thank you, thank
so
you.
much.
And well said, even the last part. Much appreciated. Okay, so Sharon, so it's kind of gonna question this in the twofold way. So what resources are necessary to assist the community now and in the future as a result of COVID? And what steps are you taking to open up safely? Or your
Sure.
center safely, rather, excuse me.
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, we are obviously talking a lot about the resources that are needed in our community. And first, I would like to mention, and this has been, I think, talked about throughout the night, in light of our current events and seeing how people, and especially our young people, have been rallying together to promote racial justice, to promote systemic change. I'd like to just share just how important it really is that all of this work be rooted in an anti-racism framework. And as we're talking about resources, to really think of it through that lens, you know, as many of us are saying, you know, our members are also mostly young people of color. And if I can just get on a soapbox for just a second, I do think that many of the issues that we're currently facing in our society is because of the lack of investment and the lack of care and attention that have been paid to our youth of color. And, you know, it's been interesting to have been starting a hub, which is funded by the DA's office. And there is this perception that these are young people who are not as smart or not as capable. And that has really prevented many of our youth from getting that extra push to pursue an interest or be exposed to different opportunities that are out there. Instead, they're being categorized as delinquents or that they're up to no good. And, you know, that really, you know, gets to me. And I definitely think it's really up to the adults and the institutions to do that deep anti-racism work within themselves, within ourselves, so that those perceptions can begin to change. And I can attest, I'm sure many of you can attest, that our young people do have so much potential that is just waiting to be unleashed into the world if only the world would receive them. And so, you know, that is something that we're really committed to at the Hub, and it's something that we're really committed with our Hub partners. You know, we're talking about Hub partnerships, and it's something that we're constantly trying to strategize together about, you know, collective impact. Applying to grants together, you know, that has actually been something that we've been doing the last couple of months, which has been really amazing. More practically, and to put it bluntly, we need capital and we need people as far as resources are concerned. And so as we're thinking about our young people getting opportunities and being involved in activities throughout the summer even, they should be incentivized, right? There should be some financial stipend or something that, quite honestly, is a stimulus to the economy. And so giving our young people that purchasing power, I think, will go a long way. And then finally, you know, the people part. We need caring adults who are willing to build relationships with our young people, you know, to serve as mentors, to teach them skills, to offer advice. I think we can all agree that networks are so incredibly important for anyone's career trajectory and could really make a difference. And so I think, you know, for adults to invite our young people into their worlds and invest in genuine relationships could really make a huge difference.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kim. I appreciate everyone's thoughts. I think one thing that's sticking out for me as I've heard all of you speak is really just the fact that like all these inequities that we've experienced in the community are just highlighted by the pandemic, right? It's nothing that we didn't know before. And yes, some of them have been exacerbated, but these are things that, as you all said, are rooted in systemic issues. So with that in mind, and for time's sake, we just want to give every panelist, first of all, thank you for being here. We want to give you all one last chance to just give us some final thoughts. And then we are going to switch it over to our parents and students that will be speaking. And then we'll have a Q&A, and then we will wrap it up. Sound good?
Yep.
Great. So Ms. Williams, you can go ahead.
I would say that, although I was being pessimistic, that's the Virgo in me. I will say that there is some reason for hope. Yvonne alluded to the nonprofit community-based organization infrastructure. It's where I've spent most of my career prior to this. And, even the fact that the mayor and Office of Management and Budget allowed nonprofits who couldn't work, had determined that the 40,000 folks who worked in nonprofits were essential, right? And paid a good many of them who weren't offering services, right? And because wanted to keep them whole, who paid folks while they were learning how to figure out telework. That would have never happened. Whatever you think of his other decision-making issues, I've worked under Mayor Bloomberg. He would have never identified the nonprofit sector as such a valued partner. So keeping the sector whole, our commissioner is looking at money that we might get from the Fed's Community Service Block Grant and really investing in supporting nonprofits, from financial management to getting better at teaching, distance teaching, and really transforming curricula to support adults and young people. So there'll be investments there. We have an election coming up, and that gives me hope. We are encouraging all young people to vote. We've been engaging them in census work. And in fact, some of them outside of SYP, our Workforce Investment Act portfolio, has partnered with the census so that young people are doing the work to encourage families and communities to respond to the census. So there are things happening. I feel like what the young people and all this activism has shown us, particularly people who stay on the sideline, is you got to get in the game, right? You got to get in the game because money doesn't just happen. Somebody makes a decision, and we have to make them make the right decision. And so I'm excited about the activism and the energy that they've brought, because I think they're going to continue to lead us. But I'm also excited about the network of nonprofits. That's one thing New York City has over a lot of places, including Oakland and other cities that compete with us. So, be proud of that. We can rely on that, and we have to make sure they're sufficiently funded. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Manuel Ramirez, any last thoughts you have and or last hopes as well for the future? If you care to share that, and if you care to say this within a minute span, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'm going to follow up and echo what Ms. Williams just said about money. And I remember that former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher once said that poverty is a lack of character. Well, I disagree. Poverty is a lack of cash. That's all it is. And as a former worker in grocery stores and a former taxi driver that I am, I know what poverty is. I know what it is to live without the necessary means for you to raise your child and send to good school. We are facing a financial crisis now, but we have been seeing years of financial gains. But when we have financial gains, the money comes to a few hands and a few people. Capitalism apply. But when it comes down to crisis and financial losses, that we need to socialize it, and everybody now needs to suffer for, especially community of color and community that are already a disadvantage. My final thought to use this: you need to get your elected officials on board. They need to work together, and they need to raise their voices. They do have a big microphone, much bigger than mine, and they could promote the necessary changes for our schools. They can promote necessary changes for our communities. if we get to the point in which we do get the budget cuts that we're expecting now, the damage is going to be felt for years to come. Our communities are going to be suffering from that for years to come. Our students are going to be suffering that for years to come. But I do have hope. I see this guy, of course. Well, I'm in the business of building hope. Because whenever community come together, changes happen. 40 years ago, all community came together and reshaped the those are an organization called Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and that law was changed. And then there was an organization that promoted tougher punishment for domestic violence, and that was changed. 1964, Civil Rights Act. Whenever the community come together, change happen, and that's why I'm hopeful, because what I see now on the street is a coalition of people who actually are realizing that things cannot continue to be the way they are. It's not only the police brutality that you see, that's only a symptom of a bigger, larger issue. Look at the coronavirus itself, how it's exposed the huge inequalities in health for people living on below poverty level and people who are doing extremely well. They have and they've had not. That line is this big now. So my final thought is, if we continue to raise our voices and advocate for strike, not only at federal level, but at local level too, then hope will be alive.
Paciencia y fe, pun intended.
Thank you. Yes, power of community. Love that. Ms. Batina, your final thoughts?
I just want to thank everyone that was on the panel. I feel very honored to be with such distinguished people who are doing great things in our community. I do believe that schools are really the instrument for change, and I see that my hope is that the future of our children will be better than what it is today. And I feel that this is an opportunity to make change. I know that there are many ways to do that, but I feel that there is hope because I've seen our community before. Our parents make it regardless of some of the issues that they have. They survive, they're survivors. So in that sense, yes, our community can get together. One thing that we learned, that all of the groups within our community, whether it be the Latinos, the Blacks, the Asians, whatever groups were in our community, they did join together during this pandemic. And food is a big crisis within our community, but I do believe something that everyone has mostly alluded to is that if we join together, if we advocate for our children, I always said, if all the principals in the city of New York and all the superintendents and all the educators got together and began to protest over what is happening in the schools, maybe change would take place. Of course, that has not happened. But change can take place. Voices together do help. And our children, our youth can be that voice for our schools as well. So I do have hope in the future. Unfortunately, I have 2 grandsons who have no immune system. So I cannot actually even go out at this point, but I am constantly in contact with many members of the community. And Yvonne, I always know what you're doing. And other people within. And it was a pleasure to meet Denise and everyone else who is here representing the communities and all the work that you're doing. You know, because of people like you, our community is better. So there will always be good people in that community, always. And that's my hope, that we continue to join together and to advocate and to push our representatives, but more to also rethink creatively new ways of finding materials and resources. We cannot think the old way anymore. We have to rechange how we think. And thank you, Faye, for allowing me to come and be part of your group and for having the foresight to have us discussing this. Thank you again.
Thank you, Blanca, so much. Yvonne, any last words?
Sure. First of all, thanks everybody on this call and this Zoom this evening. Everything we do, each and every one of us, is important. You know, in talking to our young people, I keep telling them, and I really mean it, the change starts inside of each of us. And if we're willing to make a change and we're willing to commit ourselves to doing some work to advocate for equity in all of the areas, whether it be housing, economic development, food, equity, it should be spread across our world. So Manny, thank you for saying how hopeful you are. I am an eternal optimist. I always think that there's good in everything if we just put our heads together, if we unite. And if we're doing it for a righteous and just cause, we can make change. People, whether it was during slavery or during any of the depression or whatever, people took a little and they did a lot and they were able to change lives. We're going through something now that is testing our character. It's testing our very being. I don't think that we will succumb to it. I think that we will go through it and we will go through it strongly if we believe in unity, if we believe in respect for one another, if we look out for our elders, bring our young people along, encourage them, love them through it, demand the human rights insofar as our basic needs from those people that we have put in office. Manny, yes, we need to get our elected officials and hold them accountable. We need to hold ourselves accountable, but there is hope. There is a way forward. We just need to make sure that we are talking to the right people at the right time and making sure that we are getting the right information to arm ourselves. Information and education is our greatest weapons, so that we can make change. It is not impossible. God did not give us more than we could handle if in fact we come together as a human race and as a community to make it happen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen to that.
I'm going to say amen too.
Me too.
Sharon?
Sure. Yes. Amen, Yvonne. I am so with you. Thank you for those words. And for everybody, I am just feeling really inspired and pumped up right now. I love Washington Heights and Inwood. I love our young people and I love every person that I've been able to work with. You may not think it by looking at me. I am Korean American. My parents immigrated to the States back in the 70s. My dad eventually joined the US Army. So I grew up moving every couple of years and quite honestly, never really felt like I belonged anywhere. And I first moved to Washington Heights in 2009 and lived on 173rd and Audubon. And it was since then, I've just, for whatever reason, God has been bringing me back to Washington Heights. And, you know, I've just been more and more just enthralled with the community and how much I have been embraced. And something I learned recently is that Washington Heights and Inwood holds the second highest number of youth in Manhattan. We have about 25,000 youth, second only to West Harlem. And right now we're hoping to reach maybe at least 250 youth this summer. And so I think of that number and I think, wow, we have a long way to go. But I have been really encouraged these days by something that many of you probably have heard from Martin Luther King Jr., who once said that the moral arc of the universe bends toward justice.
That's right.
And I have been just so honored and privileged to be able to work with fellow CBOs who are just as passionate as I am. And I really believe that we have been bending and quite honestly pulling that arc closer toward justice, doing everything in our power and strength to reach every young person that we can who doesn't feel like they belong anywhere, so that they have a safe place, that they have people that care about them. And that is exactly what, you know, I think my calling has been. And it's been such an amazing privilege to be able to work alongside people who have that same calling. And so, yes, let's not be in our silos. Let's, you know, exactly unite and, you know, really tap into that collective impact. I really believe that there's something to that, and that this is sort of the moment in history where we truly can come together in a way that we never have before. And so, you know, with all of that said, you know, if anyone
I think we lost her.
And we lost her. So unfortunately, hopefully she joins us again.
Hopefully. Okay. Well, if she joins again, we'll give her a chance to finish her final thought. I'm being mindful of the time. We have 2 parents and a student that are up to speak, and then we will open up. I don't see many questions. I think some folks are being very diligent and actually answering them along the way. So we might not have that many questions, but we'll check out the boxes.
Capri,
So,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to go. I see that there are questions in the chat, so by all means, feel free to collect them, email them to me. I'll be more than happy to reply to you, but I have to go now.
not a problem. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that. I somehow got cut off, but I am back. But thank you all so much.
Did you want to finish your last thought that you had?
I mean, the last thing I'll say is if anyone wants to partner and be in this work with us at the Hub and with our partners, please do reach out. You can just email uptownhub@nyp.org, and yeah, let's connect. I look forward to hopefully working with you all.
Thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you.
So now we have our first parent up is Yubelka Nolasco. Are you in, Yubelka? I don't know if she's... Oh.
Buenas noches. ¿No me oye?
Hola, buenas noches.
Ah,
Sí, la escucho.
Dime, mi amor.
¿Quiere que traduzca para usted?
No sé cómo ustedes lo harían. Yo no sé nada de inglés.
No se preocupe, yo traduzco. Entonces, deme un segundo, voy a explicar. So very quick, I'm going to be translating for Yubelka. So I'm just going to be asking her what her experience, every speaker gets 2 minutes. And we just want to hear from their perspective as parents. So you've all talked about your perspective working in these systems. So we want to hear from the other side of things, what has been their experience. So Yubelka, bienvenida, mi nombre es Karina. La pregunta que tengo para usted es, usted como madre, ¿cuál ha sido su experiencia durante toda la pandemia, con todo lo que está pasando?
Bueno,
le damos 2 minutos para responder.
La experiencia ha sido muy, ¿cómo explicarte? Porque con eso de coronavirus, no tengo trabajo, tengo 3 meses que no tengo trabajo, no pude conectar porque lo que trabajo en un salón. Y ya te puedo imaginar, 3 meses sin trabajar, yo con 3 hijos, tengo que pagar una casa. Y así ha sido. Entonces, lo peor que yo he encontrado de eso es que uno sin trabajo también, y también uno que tenga que pagar renta y todo eso y no pueda, y a mí exigiéndome de que la pague. Entonces, uno ahí es medio incómodo, la niña también, para el internet, para la escuela, que ahora, hoy no tenía, hoy ya también lo cortaron. Y así sucesivamente, yo sé que mucha familia está viviendo esto del coronavirus, pero hay algunos que le ha dado más que otros.
Sí, entiendo. Entonces, en su experiencia, lo prominente para usted ha sido lo económico, los retos económicos, ¿verdad? Ya sea la renta, el pérdida de trabajo, la necesidad de internet para su hija para que complete sus
Sí,
estudios.
porque ya ustedes se pueden imaginar que como no estoy trabajando y en un salón, eso no creo que lo vayan a abrir por ahora, porque como uno está directamente con la persona, tú sabes. Y
Sí,
el virus
claro,
se
la
trata
entiendo.
de eso, y en un salón que trabajo, eso me ha afectado emocional y económicamente también, tú sabes.
Sí. Muchas gracias. Voy a traducir lo que me acaba de compartir. Muchas gracias. So Yubelka just shared that she's a mother of 3, and she said that for her the biggest challenge has all been on the economic side. So she works at a salon, and obviously salons are not open at this moment. So it's the loss of wage, the stress of paying rent, right, and the stress of having a landlord demanding rent. The stress of having your internet cut off and that being such a vital need for your child to continue their education. So she's really highlighting the impact that this has all had financially on her and the stress that that's really put on her and her family. Muchas gracias, Yubelka.
Gracias a ustedes.
I just want to interject very quickly here just to make sure that we encourage all the panelists to stay until the end of the meeting because the parents and students do have questions for you and there are questions for you. So just keeping that in mind to stay to the end of the meeting if possible. Strongly encouraged. Thank you.
So our next parent
Ya, Jenny, te puso la caña.
is Josefina Díaz.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches, Josefina.
¿Cómo están?
Bien, ¿y usted? La
Bien,
misma pregunta para usted que le di a Yubelka.
Ok, gracias por la oportunidad que me dieron y por invitarme. Ok, soy una sobreviviente de coronavirus, en mi familia los que fuimos afectados. Sí tengo dos problemáticas que son las siguientes. Nosotros estamos recibiendo internet gratis, pero ¿qué pasa? Se rumora que ese internet va a ser suspendido o posiblemente que ese internet nosotros vamos a tener que pagar. ¿Cómo se hace si nosotros estamos sin trabajo? La segunda cuestión que yo tengo dos personas acerca de mí que son indocumentadas. Ellas no, por miedo, no llenaron la solicitud de la laptop. Y ellas
¿De la qué?
De la laptop, donde la computadora.
Ah, sí.
Entonces, laptop. Sí, gracias. Entonces, ellas, sus hijos se han quedado prácticamente en el aire. Pero no solo ellas, son muchos en la comunidad. Mi pregunta es la siguiente. Esos estudiantes que no han podido completar, ¿qué va a pasar con ellos? ¿Qué va a pasar también con la situación que tenemos si tenemos que pagar este internet? Entonces, yo espero tener por lo menos una respuesta, cómo ustedes van a proveer para mediar esta situación. Económicamente he podido salir porque, gracias a Dios, me dieron unemployment. Pero ¿qué vamos a hacer con esto? Estamos pagando casa, estamos pagando esto. ¿Qué va a pasar con internet? Claro. ¿Qué va a pasar con esos estudiantes que desgraciadamente en este momento no pueden porque le tienen miedo a la migración? Buenas noches y gracias por la oportunidad a todos.
Muchas gracias. Voy a traducir lo que me acaba de compartir. Muchas gracias por compartir con nosotros y yo sé que es algo muy importante y que no es fácil de compartir todo esto. So Josefina just shared, again, back to the economic impact, and she is actually a survivor of COVID-19. She actually underwent it and came through. And even then, the impact is, again, back to the financial, highlighting that for her family specifically, she was able to get unemployment, but then there's also the stress of having that free internet service that was provided for 2 months and now it's going to be taken away, or you have to pay a monthly fee that they're not really able to make. And then the other problem that she highlighted within her community is that for folks who are undocumented, seeing a pattern of folks being afraid to sign the paper, the form for the laptops from the DOE for fear of any sort of backlash. And so what is gonna, so she actually has a question. Well, she has two questions. And maybe we can address them at the end, but the first question is, what sort of initiative or support are we as a community going to do to help those who need internet? As we know, it's vital, especially for our students. And especially as Mr. Ramirez mentioned, we don't know if students are gonna start the year off remotely again. So that's something that I know has been thrown around. And then the other question is, what is gonna happen to students who, because of lack of technology, are not gonna be able to complete the school year? So those are the two questions. I don't know if anyone has answers, but we can come back to that. Okay. So, Josefina, vamos a continuar, pero si hay alguien que puede responder, le voy a decir, ¿ok?
Lo importante es que tomen notas al respecto y se pueda tomar una salida. Una salida.
Sí.
No que me respondan ahora, sino dar soluciones.
Y le puedo decir por nuestra cuenta que el reto de la internet ya lo hemos discutido y estamos en plática sobre eso.
Ok, gracias.
Should bring up the latter question about internet at the city council hearing with the DOE. So to ask them about continuing the internet as long as kids have to be, I mean, the city negotiated that. And my other thought is, per Bianca, you know, the Open Society Institute put a lot of money in funding undocumented families. So that is those CBOs like Make the Road and others who receive that money, they could use some of that money to pay towards internet too, not just, you know, food or housing, but education would be another criteria, it seems to me, that they could fund. So I think we should pursue OSI and the education and the DOE would justify.
I think the other thing with the undocumented piece that she mentioned was it was more of a fear. From my understanding, it's a fear of not her, but the people that she knows in her community, as undocumented folks, having the fear of signing a paper and having the fear of being outed as undocumented.
Right. What I'm thinking though is that if there are immigrant serving organizations, why couldn't they get the computers? So why couldn't Make the Road, for example, get 100 or Cloth get the computers and they take responsibility for assigning them as credible messengers? Like families trust them. They're not going to trust the government. Can't say they blame them, but that's another way to do it.
Yeah, so maybe
that's a great idea.
I just wanted to say
that we could you know, suggest. I'm more than willing to say yes, we would do that. You know. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, Josefina, me acaban de responder que la primera cosa con la internet que es algo que podemos traer al comité educativo, el departamento de educación y hablar como es eso una necesidad grande en la comunidad. Y la segunda cosa con el reto de la computadora, del laptop, acaban de sugerir que tratar de trabajar o con Cloth o con alguna organización de ayuda para inmigrantes, que ellos puedan llenar el papel por el nombre de otra gente, así para que la gente vaya a organizaciones que ellos confíen. So, si quiere dejar su información, podemos hablar más de eso.
I think Blanca has something to offer.
Gracias, ya yo me pongo en contacto con la señora Fe.
Perfecto.
Referente a eso. Muchas gracias por sus atenciones y por escucharme y por, de una manera rápida, usted haber respondido para las clases online y que nuestros niños no se quedaran sin recibirlas y terminar su tiempo de clase.
Muchas gracias por su tiempo, Josefina. So she's saying thank you to all of you for your suggestions. And our last speaker is our student, Yirelis. Yirelis, I don't want to butcher your last name, so if you want to say it.
Of course.
Is Yirelis on?
Yireli Bencosme.
Yeah, she is there.
Hola, Yirelis. Hello?
Hello, Yirelis.
He's
I'll
having
get this in the
technical
chat.
difficulties.
She's probably having some issues with the mic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. The mic is active right now, but we don't hear her.
I don't know.
We still don't hear her, Uralis.
Uralis, did you want to share anything on the, maybe if you put it in the Q&A box in the chat?
Yeah.
I'm going to call her so maybe she can speak from the telephone because she says she seems, I mean, I think that she might be having some kind of technical problem. Let me try to call her.
Okay. So while that happens, I just want to note some more people that we wanted to acknowledge. So we just want to do some shout outs while we get Uralis on. So just wanted to acknowledge, we also have, you got her?
Yes, I think I have her on the phone now. Uralis,
Okay, you know,
here. Okay, please speak.
Oh, please, go ahead, Uralis. Hi, Uralis.
Hey, maybe you need to translate for her or just repeat for her.
No, she's speaking in English, but I just can't.
No, I didn't mean like that. I didn't mean translate
it. Faye, do you want to tell us what she's saying? Because we can't hear the audio very well.
Uralis? Yeah. Okay, we really trying to hear you, but we are having some difficulty. Try to speak slowly to see if the rest of the, our attendees can hear you, including the panelists. Try.
I just like to share my experience with remote learning. I did have questions, but they already answered before. So I've had troubles with anxiety and stress, but my school staff already helped me with it and gave me patience and many resources. And also the tight living spaces have made it very difficult to concentrate. And that sometimes there are very long like essays and assignments that I don't find the need to post and they cause unnecessary stress. And students are already facing a lot of stress in the global pandemic and racial issues going on in our country.
Did you hear her, Kathy?
I heard some parts. There were some parts that were a little muffled, unfortunately.
Uralis, you cannot unmute yourself from the, can't you unmute yourself on your computer?
Yes, but it's still.
It's not working, yeah.
Try to speak now. I see that.
Oh, you know what?
Go ahead,
There's a call-in number. She can call into the number, and it's in the link, isn't
Can you call to the numbers?
Yeah, I'll try.
Call the number. Thank you. I think it's important that she speak clearly since this information is recorded, and just for the record, I want to make sure that it's her statement that not what I translate for the rest of us. So she's gonna try over the by calling to see if she can access us. So let's continue and while she get back to us.
So in the meantime, we'll just do the shout out list. So I just wanted to acknowledge we have our Neighborhood Advisory Board liaison, Jorge Mendizabal, is on with us. He is also under my name because I shared my link with everyone. But Jorge, if you can just wave, say hi. There you go, there he is. So just some really quick shout outs. Just big thank you to the following people: Rosenda Dominguez, Elsa Roman, Nadia Ramirez, Dr. Yolanda Pineda, Mayra Palacio, Mayra Compres, lost my list. Julio Bautista, Principal Monica Clur, Tatiana Mahoney, and if I missed anyone, please let me know.
I think pretty much we'd had everyone. Let's see what we have on the store for the. Well, in the meantime, maybe perhaps we wanted to open up the Q&A for our attendees. So while, understanding that once Girelis get access to us, so we will proceed, or we may face or stop the meeting. So just to listen to her, but let's proceed let's open up the Q&A, allowing our members to first, and then, attendees, of course. Well, at this point, I think maybe we can just go, directly with anyone who, wanted to pose the questions. Thank you.
I have a question for the panelists. If we wanted to get in contact with you guys, how could we do that?
So we can be reached at our website at cloth159.org. My email address is ystennett@cloth159.org. And if you want to reach by phone, it's 917-750-0262.
Faye has all my contact information. And as I say, I do a lot of work with the NDA unit at DYCD. So Jorge, Anita Antonetti, any of them can reach me or share my contact information with you.
My contact information is B Bettino. It's very simple, at optonline.net. And my number is 201-981-5670. I think half of Washington Heights has it, but did you get it?
Can you repeat your email, please?
It's B Bettino, BBATTINO at optonline.net. OPTONLINE.net.
Thank you.
Hi, so if you want to reach out to the Uptown Hub, you can feel free to email uptownhub@nyp.org. You can also call or text 917-740-7496. Especially if you know any youth who are interested in joining, they can call or text that number. My email address is shk9051@nyp.org. And my phone number is 646-531-4459.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
I had a question for the group. And this might be for Denise, for you specifically, based on something you said earlier, but my name's Chris Tomato. I work at Zeta Schools. And one thing we've been struggling with a lot of our families is the Spectrum offer specifically. And they, when COVID hit, they took advantage of the 60-day free policy. And those are now expiring since that was in mid-March. And our families are obviously struggling with making decisions on what to spend money on, and deciding between Wi-Fi and their next meal has been really, really hard. So it's become really hard for our families, and it's become to the point that it feels like public education, is supposed to be free, but at this point it's not feeling free once Spectrum is charging them $50 a month, and often not sharing ahead of time that they're going to do that. They just continue with the service, and then they get billed, which I feel like may be even worse. And it's been really tough financial hit for a lot of families. So yeah, I just want to get advice from the group. We've been trying to work in different channels to try to fix this and to change this, knowing that this is definitely going to extend into the summer. We need families to be on Wi-Fi to get remote learning and remote access. Is there anything that you'd recommend that we can do to try to fight this?
So my two thoughts had to do with addressing the DOE finance hearing. The mayor holds a press availability every day. So getting New York One or another one of the education reporters, like at the Daily News, to ask him this question is a good way to get him on record about certain things. And so that was my first strategy. And as I've said, there there are groups of funders like Robin Hood and
Mhm.
society that have stepped in. I'm always loath to do that because you're talking about so many, we got 1 million students. I don't know how many they're going to cover when this should be something the government is covering. I do think that the OSI initiative in particular, that's really been focused on communities not being helped by what the federal government has done or been left behind by what the federal government has done, would be a response. And they've given money to immigrant serving organizations like and some others who are very easy to get in touch with and accessible and very community oriented. So those are my 3 ideas, but I would start with the council hearing is public, right? And we've been doing it by Zoom. As I said, the mayor is on TV almost every day. You could try Cuomo on TV every day. So they may not even be thinking about this, especially to the point that the superintendent made, that we may not be back in physical buildings next year.
That's right.
That's a very real possibility. I think it's a probability, frankly, because we can't practice social distancing in the school buildings we have, right? Building more school buildings. So I think we're going to be partly in buildings and partly online. And so families are going to need that support. So those are my thoughts.
Right. And I think, sorry, I think that
I'm
we all
sorry.
have, am I jumping on someone?
No, you can go, Yvonne. I'll go after you.
I think we all, we all have the ability to do advocacy. If you have a constituency, our students should be writing letters to our elected officials and to mayor and to whomever, to all the elected officials. They have to feel that this is significant and important to us, right? So whether it be the calls while they're on TV or the calls while they're doing their council hearings, we've got to send letters. We've got to bombard their offices so that they know exactly what it is that we need. We can't be passive about it. And I know if we have, again, if we have a clientele, if the Youth Hub, it could be an initiative that the Youth Hub takes on and have you can do it virtually. Have every one of our young people writing to their offices, have their parents writing to their offices. I think we have to be activated. It has to be grassroots pushed at this point.
I agree. I agree with everything that you said, Yvonne. It has to be a mobilization of the community to make it happen. By the way, there was an extension of the licensing for the internet till June 30th. What is happening though is that those companies who know that many of our parents don't really understand what is happening and are afraid are actually saying to parents, we have a bill for you. But this is not what's true because they had already, this had been a complaint that happened like in May and has been advocated by these parents who actually brought this. Was that then they changed the Spectrum and Optimum and whatever services were to be extended till June 30th. So if they're actually taking off the internet, it's because it's an abuse of power. So there, as I agree with both ladies, there's a lot of advocacy that you can do. Don't be afraid to be on camera. And or your children, your students, believe it or not, they're very good speakers. And they actually advocate for themselves and you give them a sense of power and also a sense of hope. So I do agree. Letter writing is one of my big things in elementary school. I believe that children should be letter writing and complaining that they live in shelters, that they do this, that you have to begin the citizenship attitude very early on. So if you,
I would just add to that, there's letter writing and there's tweeting. They
Yes,
all have Twitter accounts.
I agree.
Okay? People are all on social media. So there's no way they would not see that. And if it started trending and things, so whether it's the chair of the Education committee as to the council and they're negotiating with the mayor about the, I would definitely be all over Twitter.
Absolutely. Even I'm talking to Mr. Ramirez, who is directly involved with downtown. So there are avenues that you can take. And we have to give our parents and our kids hope. You know, we have to say, no, we can do something about this.
Right.
Just to throw out a thought, I am 100% on board with the advocacy, and Yvonne, I hear you, and I think that it's true. We have sort of at our fingertips this contingency of young people that, you know, a lot of what I've been thinking about for this summer and thinking about what activities or what kind of internship or what have you, I have been thinking more and more about really fusing it with all of this advocacy work. And, you know, our young people are in it, but I think that what we can do as providers is better prepare them, safety plan with them, let them know, hey, okay, if you're going to a protest, like here are some things to think about. So, you know, a lot of those are ideas and conversations we're having. So I'm definitely on board with the advocacy piece. Something though to throw out just in terms of the internet question, and I'm going to be the first to admit that I'm not as well versed, but I am married to a tech consultant. And so we talk a lot about these things. And I do think that there's something about like talking to these or reaching out or figuring out if there are companies that are a little bit more socially minded, and really mobilizing the private sector, mobilizing these professionals who are really being activated as well these days. You know, a lot of these companies, as you're probably seeing, and friends that I'm talking to who have never really thought about social justice before are now having these conversations. And it's kind of been amazing because I'm sort of like, welcome to my world. And so I think that there's also something there, and I don't know exactly the specific answer, but I do think we're living in a moment where we don't have to be doing all of this alone in the nonprofit sector. I think we can really leverage the power and the resources that our colleagues, our family members, our friends may have in the private sector. So that's something that I kind of want to throw out there because, yeah, I really feel like there's something to that, but I don't quite know what the answer is yet. But definitely, if anyone is interested in exploring that with me, I'm down for that.
So I think it's both and. So, you know, if you're going to get, the reason we got this deal in the first place is that the city negotiated. So I do think we have to go back and put the pressure.
Absolutely.
Know that this is an issue, especially if we're going to be online for another year, and bring the power of the city and the community to bear on whatever, the Spectrum, Verizon, whatever. So I think it's both. I'm just worried about being able to mobilize corporations in time for something that's happening at the end of this month. And so I think we have to get money or bring the city to bear on this negotiation. And then longer term, it's, you know, Community Reinvestment Act kind of thing where Spectrum gets some credits for, you know, continuing to do it. So I'm agreeing with you. I think it's both.
So thank you all so much for all those thoughts and your answers to that. I know that a lot of folks are really concerned about the internet access, especially like, as we said, we don't know if schools are going to be remote next year. We do have Yirelis back online, and I would love to give her the platform so that she could share her experience as a student, right? As we're talking about that, as a student, what has been her experience? So Yirelis, if you can go ahead and just tell us a little bit about what it's been like for you on your end as a student to go through this time with remote learning, with COVID, with everything that's happening. Yirelis, can you hear me?
She needs to unmute herself.
Yeah, Yirelis, can you unmute yourself? Or Or can someone, whoever the admin is, unmute her, please?
I don't see Jonathan on.
Yeah, I think he's not away. Oh, there she is. Yeralis?
What's that?
Hello? I don't hear her. Okay, do you hear her? Oh, there she is. Hello? Hi, Yeralis.
Try now.
So I would like to share my experience with remote learning. I've experienced great amount of stress and anxiety with the current situation that our country is facing. And the school staff has provided resources and help, and they've been patient with me and my schoolwork. Now, I would like to use my remaining time to promote awareness to the current racial issues happening in our country. Actually, a few weeks ago, a mob of white grown adults marched armed with rifles, screaming and spitting at police, saying Nazi slang, and forcefully trying to get into different buildings. And they've been left unarmed. Now, kids, adults, and teens are marching out against injustice, and they're being faced with unnecessary violence. They're being shot at with rubber bullets and being gassed with pepper spray, and are facing unlawful arrest. Predominantly Black neighborhoods are being over-policed, and Black individuals are being overcharged by the court. Individuals with a lighter complexion are being undercharged. Now let me give you a brief history lessons. A handful of the first police department was actually created to chase runaway slaves back to their masters. And after they were freed, not actually, the corrupt court system would overcharge them and try to find ways to charge free Black slaves and send them back into slavery. Now, if you compare that with what's happening now, it's very similar, and racism hasn't ended. And in order to change that, we must abolish the corruptness of the government. There's people dying, and the president doesn't care. It's the same president that would use vulgar language against women, the same president that doesn't care that kids are being held in cages, and that there's dangerous chemicals being used in those cages irresponsibly. And the same president that expressed Islamophobia, same president that says that Muslims should wear special IDs. I think people should know that they have the right to revolt against the government. They have the right of liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and that's why there was the American Revolution to abolish the British monarchy.
Okay.
There's an echo, Yeralis.
Yeah, Gerald, you gotta move away from your computer.
Yeah. So I will say, Yeralis, what I'm hearing a lot from you is really I'm hearing the frustration of the underlying systemic issues at hand, and just how those are so wrapped in your experience with COVID, especially with the stress that you've said has been really highlighted during the pandemic with remote learning. So I wanted to thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that is very important for us to hear. I'm sorry, go ahead. I said, no problem. So thank you for coming in. I know that's not easy, and I want to give it up to the youth for speaking up. I do want to address that we do have some questions on the chat. For my understanding, Waldy's is saving those so that maybe we can actually we can send those off to the folks who can better answer them, because I know that I want to keep track of time and we are really over time. So how does that sound to everyone? Faye, Waldy's, what do you think?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you. You guys, you have done a wonderful job. And our, panelists, I can't thank them enough. Our attendees as well. I think our team has done fantastic tonight. I'm very proud. And I don't think I can actually come up with a word that can measure, the level of performance, an outstanding job that you all have put together. I'm very proud of you, and I'm very proud to be, your colleague. So, and with that said, I just would like to add it up that maybe we already exceeded the time that we are supposed to use, but I guess maybe we can use the next few minutes, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and just to properly thank everyone. Personally, I want to just restate the thank you note that you share with our, colleagues, that they are, for some reason or another, I know they have kept silent, but I wanted basically to mention Mr. Julio Batista, who is a dear friend and community colleague from the Presbyterian Hospital. I also would like to mention the GW folks like Elsa Romans, Rosendo, their parents, of course, that they've been vocal. I know somewhere in some corner of this meeting, they are watching us. I really wanted to thank. And I also wanted to highlight my appreciation for our Deputy Director, DYCD, Jorge Mendizabal. He also somewhere. Jorge, thank you so very much for all your support. And if I probably forget someone else, but just know that I deeply and dearly and sincerely appreciate all the work that you guys, have done. Not only today in this meeting, but throughout, our interaction and the work that we know how to do best for our community. I'm deeply proud of you. And I thank you, all the panelists, for such outstanding job and for being, always willing to embrace our community. So thank you deeply so much. So I wanted to add it up, moving to another phase of this agenda. But before I do that, I wanted to conceal back the floor to you, Waldy and Kari, to see if you want to add it up a few more words. So any thoughts that you perhaps have, come up with, so I can just discuss something briefly after what is next with our community. Where are we going to move from this conversation? So I wanted to allow you to say anything, and any member who want to interject and and say anything. And by the way, I wanted to add it up, which I forget, but this is also very important. My colleague, Dr. Yolanda Pineda, I know she's somewhere. Yolanda, thank you for joining us. So go ahead, Weldy and Kathy, for any thought that you wanted to share before we move to the closure. To the closing of the agenda.
Sure.
I think everyone's spoken so well. I'm just going to say snaps to everyone, because a lot of you said the things that I've been thinking, and I feel like the rest is up to another day of conversation.
Yeah, so I do want to thank everybody for participating and for providing such great insight to what you guys do from a very micro level to the very macro objective perception that you guys have. I also want to say that what Idalis went through right now is just an example of what students are going through day to day, right? And she, I'm sure she has the technology, quote unquote, to do this, but still there's still a lag there, right? And this is all part of the adaptation that we need to that we're facing, and the transitions that we're facing and changes, and we just have to be very patient with ourselves and with others, and also just kind of like think about how can we improve everything of where it is today. I love hearing the conversations of what was and what is and how what the future will look like, because I think that that's ultimately what we're tasked with as advocates for the community and as a system of support. We're tasked with identifying what needs are and trying to make an argument for access to resources to improve these needs, right? And so with that being said, I know that Faye mentioned yesterday in our kind of ad hoc meeting about this panel, and it was brought up in this panel discussion today about the internet Wi-Fi being an issue at hand and a very big concern for our family. So I do know that, and maybe we'll speak about this in a few minutes after this panel discussion is closed, but we will be discussing a resolution on the table, God willing, if everybody agrees on the committee, regarding us advocating for funding to last until e-learning is cease to exist per se, right? So we want to advocate for Wi-Fi for folks that need access to these funds to ensure that Wi-Fi connectivity is still there for the summer and until e-learning is until we're back to normal per se, right? So that's where we're going, at least for today. And where we're going next week and where we're going tomorrow, still is up in the air, but I'm grateful that, today was the, phase 1 reopening. So I'm hopeful that, people are taking care of themselves, and that's as much as we can do. So I just want to say, everybody protect themselves and be mindful of your spacing and of each other, and know that, we're here as a committee, we're here for the youth and education, but as a board, as a whole, we're here for the community, and we want to just continue to relay that support. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Daddy, you want to add up any final words before I?
No, I think we're good to move ahead.
Thank you. So that is a few quick note that I think are very important. You probably want to hear about this. From all this conversation and other conversation that I had with some of my colleagues, interviewing people and getting to know exactly about their experiences, we're going to have some sort of, we're going to be writing like some sort of like a policy recommendation for the city and the involving some agency, especially the DOE, and probably may hit to the mayor office. We're going to present this to the community board, so the community board may follow up with them directly. So, and that's important for you to know. So your conversation, your thoughts tonight, some of them are going to be included. Of course, we will gonna be in contact you before we may share any information publicly, just to make sure that we are on the safe side. I also wanted to share with you that it is important for you, and please share your thoughts about this meeting, because in conversation like this nature is where we have the opportunity to impact on the needs that we all facing in one way or another, directly or indirectly. So your opinion, your thought counts. So I really want to and urge you to join the conversation and the YouTube. Since this is going to be, it's being recorded, and you can access to any time, that you at your pleasure, that you feel like it. So I wanted you and would like to encourage you just to access the YouTube. I will send you the link as well, or you can contact the office, the Community Board 12. Perhaps our colleague Jonathan Nunez Frometat may wanted to say something or perhaps share the link. And by the way, Jonathan, great job. I want to thank you so much for helping us. And of course, I wanted to thank the parents and the students for joining us tonight. Their message is well accepted, well received, and pretty much, very much appreciated, especially knowing that you are like the main recipient of this challenging situation that we are, all facing and going through. I wanted also to mention that this perhaps is going to be the last meeting of the Youth and Education Committee until September. The community board actually will be in recess from June until September, but I understand that we still have from the board, on the full board, we're gonna have the general meeting is still to come. We're also gonna have other committee meetings, but in our side, it's not gonna be any other, we're not gonna have another committee meetings until September when we come back, on duties. And very last, I just wanted to remind you that remember that all these collective effort with members of the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, BYCD, in collaboration with the Youth and Education Committee, is also part of another strategy, another initiative in building bridges and building relationship. And let me tell you, especially our panelists, if there is any way in which you can encourage other colleagues from different offices to join us so we can unify our voices together and we can, apply our concerns and highlight the needs of our community, not only in District 6 where we are actually residing, but all over the city, all over New York City. The concern of one single student in our districts is equally the same concern for any student all over the city. So what I'm saying in a few words that please bring your ideas, please ask other agency to join us and feel free to contact us. So, and with that said, Callis, thank you deeply again. I know this has been a long meeting, but I just want to reiterate my appreciation. So all members of the YCD, already we stated their name, and our Youth and Education Committee, thank you, and our member. Commissioner William, in my heart, you are in my heart. Thank you so much, as well the rest of the panel. Emily, Kim, Ms. Batinos, I love you all so very, very much. Let's keep up the good work. And my team, thank you endlessly. I want to conclude this meeting with this. Thank you so much.
Just one thing I want to add on the very end. For most of you that probably don't know that we have a YouTube channel. So we have a YouTube channel and we encourage you to subscribe. Name is NYC, let me just double check. It's CB12M NYC, right? CB12M NYC. That's a YouTube channel, so you can subscribe.
Yes. Well, since we are about just to exit this meeting, I don't know if any of my colleagues, Maria, I don't know if Maria, I didn't realize that I was actually, I stopped the video. I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize that. Maria and any one of my colleagues, Naiman or Ida, Paulina Mercado, I don't know if any of you may have any comments. Curtis Young, I don't know, Curtis, you've been silenced. I don't know if you want to say or you want to add up anything. And I'm not sure whether or not I mentioned precisely the name of Yvonne Stenne. Yvonne, you know you're in my heart as well, and I want to thank you deeply for all the things that you do, because you've done so many wonderful things for our community. And I think this is something that cannot go unnoticed in this meeting. I really appreciate all of you do.
Thank you, beloved.
Yes.
Hi, so you mentioned me, Naima Silver. Buenas noches and good night. The only thing that I have to say is that I'm very grateful that this happened and that this was organized and that everyone that was brought together because I actually learned a lot from our panelists. And there's a lot of food for thought and also a lot of food for action. And so I'm just going to be reviewing my notes, also watching the video again of this meeting to see, what sparks and what comes up. And I'm just really grateful. So all I have to say is just thank you so much.
Well, thank you. So with that said, anybody else want something to add?
I have my hands high.
Maria?
Okay, thank you. Since 7 o'clock, we've been sitting here listening to a presentation by people such as Blanca Batino, Yvonne Stennett, and other people. I have to focus on those two people. The experience, the record in our communities for over 40 years is really something that all of you, everyone that is on this link, should research and take a look at, because their experience is going to build up the future of our community. I am a little concerned, Fed, with all due respect to you, as a member of the Community Board Youth Committee, that members of this committee did not have an opportunity to ask questions. I know that you wanted to focus in a different way and get participation by everybody under the sun, which is sometimes we cannot do, but there are members on this committee, and I see names around here. Also, Naima, I am glad that you are part of this listening, 2 hours record. I think it was being 2 hours. There is a lot of people who could have contributed a lot also to the participation, to the discussion, and the experiences that we have all shared in our community. But as I said before, I am sorry that the superintendent left, because I have specific questions to him, very seriously, because he is the superintendent of District 6. I needed to be here to answer a question by everybody. Okay, so that's my focus. Faye, you know me. I say what I have to say. I respect you, but I think that this lengthy conversation and listening that we have didn't give us the opportunity, in order for us to prioritize in our community board in September of what is important, how the members of our community boards are going to be ranking specific needs of our community, especially on education, on public safety. We needed to have a dialogue or be part of the dialogue. And that's I wish everybody a happy summer. And I also have to remind you, coronavirus and COVID-19 is not the end of our life. It's an experience, and we have to learn from that. We have to share pains and also joys, because we need to have a better future for our people, for our young people, to show them that it's a better, because of this, we can give them a better future for them to take over what all of us, the older adults, have put a lot of energy in building in our community. So thank you so much to all of you. Blanca, I love you. Yvonne, I don't have to tell you. The rest, have a nice summer. And let's take 2 Tylenols, be careful, go out with a mask, use gloves. Don't talk to anybody that doesn't have that protection, because we have to protect them as we have to protect ourselves. Have a good summer.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria.
So, Maria, your point is well taken, but I don't know if my colleague said, but I think that just in case, that any question that people may have, they can send me those questions to my email, so I can forward those questions to the panel, and they will have an answer. And for that, let me just give you.
The community has to have some structures in order for us to put together resolutions and vote on those resolutions. And by the way that you are explaining, I don't think we're going to have the opportunity to do that. I'm talking about the committee. I'm not talking about the rest of the people who are watching us. And by having YouTube and the other tube and the extra tube, is not going to cut it. We are part of a community planning board that have a structure, and we have to go by the laws.
I got your point, Maria. I got your point.
I'm not, my sister's pointing a finger at me. I'm not fighting. That's the way I am. Okay.
No, I understand, Maria. I understand. Allow me, please. Okay, just for the record, anyone that has a question, panel, either is the panel, either is the attendee, please just send me your question at, here is my email. F as in Frank, E as in Edward, dot, in other words, Fe, dot, Florimon, which is my last name, FLORIMON, at the letter J, A as in Apple, Y, www.cuny.edu. Send in your question, and I promise you I'm going to forward your question to our panelists, and you will have an answer from them. So,
Thank
and
you.
if you miss my email, you can contact the office, the board office as well, and ask for my email. If you can Google my name, you can see my email anyway, my address email. Maria, thank you for your comment.
Thank
And
you
I think
all.
at this point, thank
Thank
you.
you and good night.
Yes.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You all have a good
Thank
night.
you. Good night, guys.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much for
Faye.
the hard work. Thank
Bye.
you.
Buenas
Good night, dear.
noches. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Night.
Great meeting.
Thanks, Big William.
Yes, thank you, thank you. This was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias por la invitación.
Thank you.
Jorge, before we leave, I just wanted to say, oh, did he leave already? Oh,